Well, welcome back to the Cottage Farmstead. I'm Rebecca, and this is my husband Nathan. And we thought we'd join you this evening over a cup of tea, as it is definitely dark outside. We're near the winter solstice, so there's not a whole lot that we're doing out in the garden right now. Our carrots and garlic are doing their thing. They don't need a lot of weeding or pest management or fertilizing or anything over the winter. So we have a bit more free time in the evening, and we thought we'd bring you in on one of our evening chats. So you've probably noticed that prices have been inching up at the grocery store, and we're trying to build our house right now, and prices are doing this, and supplies crazy. So it's naturally prepping comes up in conversation of, what's going to happen? How do we prepare? Are we going to be okay? And it's kind of an undercurrent. You hear whispers about it, but we were kind of thinking we wouldn't really class ourselves as preppers. But it got us thinking that maybe we should document, a discussion of are we actually preppers? How do we define preppers? Are we prepared? So how do you define a prepper?
Oftentimes when I think of a prepper, it's something that someone is preparing for a particular point in time, like a climactic event. And this could be a number of things, whether it's a natural disaster, the end of the world, it could be a zombie apocalypse. But I view it more as just preparing and collecting resources to try to survive through a particular event at an unknown time period.
Yeah, so for me, I would consider preppers, I think the motivation that differs from us with preppers is the fear aspect, which you're touching on, is that there's a big fear that something's going to happen, which, stuff happens all the time. We've survived COVID for 2 years. So stuff can happen, but we're not living our lives day to day afraid and trying to hide our stockpiles out back in barrels or have bunkers or anything like that. That we're not prepping in a fear-based motivation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's almost like we have a different drive, a different incentive for what we are striving to do. I think part of it might be just our history. I grow on a farm currently, but I've always been interested and passionate about gardening. So it's not something that we have thought up on the spur of a moment in preparation for something, but it is a lifestyle that we are pursuing.
Because I've always, I grew up going to my grandparents' farm and I loved it. So I've always wanted to live on a hobby farm, and I've got backyard chickens even though I still live near the city limits, just because I wanted to live this lifestyle. I wanted to grow my own food. I've grown a garden for years. So it's a lifestyle of growing and raising our food. So therefore, we are prepared, but we would do this regardless because we love the flavor of backyard eggs. Homegrown produce tastes better. So we would choose to live this way no matter what chaos is going on in the world.
And I guess the difference would be a prepper is not only stockpiling food, but then probably other resources that we don't necessarily do, such as fuel, MREs, different types of more shelf stable, although we do a lot of canning. But once again, it's not fear-based. And with that type of prepping, not to say that there's different forms that it can take, it seems like it's more isolationist in its vantage point.
Every man has their fortress, every man for themselves, and they need to have enough ammunition to make sure nobody comes and steals their MREs. Our battery died, so we're back now. We're not sure where we cut off, so we'll just start over somewhere else.
Isolationism.
I think that's where we were.
Yes. So preppers, oftentimes, it's trying to prepare yourself to be the last man standing. Whereas our mentality is more along the lines of, being fruitful, having a form of prosperity that doesn't just stop and end here, but goes further into our community.
And we already do that because we grow extra food. We sell it to people that want high quality produce. We sell our eggs, but we also give it away fairly frequently to friends and family.
But then also the sense of, we aren't in this alone. We're partnering with different foods. Right now we don't have the capacity, for instance, to grow our own meat. So we're buying meat from a local source as well as our honey and trying to build those relationships, which, yes, it costs a lot more because we aren't doing it ourselves.
Although at this point it might be equaling out with the grocery store.
That's true. But it is putting money where it can make a big difference, meanwhile, and investing in the values that we have.
That's where, like, preparing from the standpoint of, like, we'll have a community of people that we know. If something crazy does happen, we know a butcher, we know someone who raises meat, we know someone who raises different produce than we raise. We have our own eggs, and we have eggs, and eggs, therefore we can barter maybe for honey from somebody. So there's things that we have that would still work even if, like, cash doesn't work anymore, no access to banks. We'd still be able to provide food for ourselves, barter, and help provide for other people more from abundance.
So more of a sense of, well, community. We are not in this alone. Even in light of if a catastrophe does happen, I think this lifestyle does end up preparing us well. More importantly, not just us, but those around us.
Yeah, and we're collecting skills in many ways that we had a little bit of canning growing up. I know you had a little bit more. That was a skill that I had to learn. Learning basic sewing and learning how to cook from scratch. Because there's no use in, like, buying and stockpiling a whole bunch of seeds if A, you don't know how to grow with them, or B, you don't know what to do with the end result. Like, do you know what to do with the radish that you just pull it out of the ground or not, other than just eating it raw? So learning how to, like, cook with those ingredients from scratch is, like, a useful skill to start collecting, which makes you prepared for future eventualities.
So I guess that's another way that differentiates what we are and who we are from preppers as well. Preppers, yes, there are skill sets that might be more survival mode, pertaining to, like, how do you start fires and cook MREs and shelter, but ours seem to be more along, okay, you have grown the food, how can you prepare that in such a way to be nourishing, and then canning, freezing, preservation of that thereafter.
Yeah, and we learn how to dry too, because, stuff hits the fan and you don't have canning supplies, which, I mean, there's shortages of those last year, like learning how to dehydrate food and alternative ways like fermentation to preserve food without electricity, if necessary. I personally don't love fermented food, but I would eat it if I had to. So in short, we're not preppers, I don't think. We're not motivated by fear. We would choose this lifestyle, like I said, regardless. It's rich, it's vibrant, and we just love sharing this lifestyle with other people, and love seeing, adults and children alike light up when they feed a chicken for the first time or collect eggs, and realize that eggs come in all different colors of the rainbow. There's a lot of beauty and joy that can be found in this lifestyle that comes with an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity of, like, every man for themselves. So if this is something you're interested in, we do have a backlog of videos, and you can also subscribe down below as we put out a video every week talking about homestead life, building our farmhouse. We're going to be moving out onto some land, so there's going to be lots of new content as we start getting into raising our own meat and dairy, which is totally new to us. We're going to be adding to our own skill set too. We also have a website, cottagefarmstead.com, and we have a lot of how-to guides and tips on how to grow your own food even year-round. We have several posts on growing in the winter that are up right now. That would be a great way to, if you want to start growing food right now, if you're concerned about some of the prices at the grocery store.
Well, thank you for joining us. It is a fascinating conversation, and we encourage you to, converse regardless of where you're at. Try to have an idea of what you want to become, and make the decisions today to make that a possibility.
Catch you next time.